Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is the handover of a Elddis AutoQuest 180. So starting my walk around on the driver's side of the vehicle first, the first point you get to is your Truma flue for the hot water system on gas. So this cover must be taken off when operating on gas. If you're operating on electric, you can leave it on, but to take it off, put your hand on the top, thumb in the middle, pop the cover off, and then the best place to keep this is in the passenger door or driver's door, and then when you come to leave your site, just pop this back on. But this must come off to allow the fumes out when operating on gas. Walking further down, you put your freshwater drain tap, so you can, if you've taken on contaminated water, you're draining it down for the winter, or you're simply not using it for a couple of weeks, drain off your fresh water just to stop the water from freezing in the tank, especially in the winter, or going stagnant when not in use. And you'd normally drive over a grid on the way out of your site and just crack this tap open. To fill with fresh water, this is your fresh water fill up. So it fills with a wheel pump which goes to a hose pipe, which we're just getting there for you now. So this pump here, so one end connects to the tap, the other end, which is the quad lock, connects to the vehicle, and then you can just connect it to the tap and fill. So if you're on a super site, you can just leave this plugged in, or when you arrive on site, you can just fill your freshwater tank up. But you can see inside the level of how much fresh water is on board at any time. You've got your fresh water flush for your toilet, so this is where you put your pink in. So using the key, so normally all the outside locks open with the West alloy key, which is a square one, and you'd simply put some pink liquid, dilute it, pour a jug or a watering can in here, and this will fill the cistern. So when you flush, you get the liquid from here, as it's not fed from your main freshwater tank. So just make sure that's full for your flush. And then below you do have your cassette. So to get your cassette out, you need to ensure that the blade's closed, which I'll talk about more when inside the vehicle, because that's where it is. And once it is closed, you'll be able to lift the yellow handle and slide the cassette free of the vehicle. Carry it to your waste disposal point, which is normally beside your toilet block. Remove the yellow cap, press the yellow button at the bottom and tip the content of the cassette out. Once you've tipped it out, there's normally a tap there, so you'd put some water in, give it a rinse and tip out again. Then you would fill this cap full with your green or your blue liquid, put a cap full into there, and then it's good to go back into the vehicle. If you are using the new type of chemical which come in the sachets, which are in the cellophane sachets, you put a pint of water in, and then you push it back into the vehicle and drop a tablet down into the toilet, which will break down into the liquid. Further back, you do have your battery locker. So again, with the West alloy spare key, or square key, sorry, this will open this locker. And in here you do have your leisure battery, your hookup point. So to hook the vehicle up, you get your hookup blade, lift the collar, expose the end, and just simply hook it up and slide the lead through here. So when you shut the door, the lead doesn't get trapped, and then you can lock it so your hookup blade is safe. LPG at the back, which is liquid petroleum gas, and this is your gas locker. So in here you can fit two 6 kilogram propane bottles. So you always want to make sure once you have the bottle on board, there's two straps. Strap them round the bottle to make sure that the bottle is secure when on board. And then to connect the pigtail, it's a left hand thread, so just hand tighten opposite threads with it being gas, and then you would just turn on and off from the top of the bottle. Always make sure it's turned off before you start traveling, as it's a safer way to have your gas turned off in case you were involved in any collision. On the back of the vehicle, you've got your high level brake light, your reversing camera, and your two bike rack. So you just pull this down, put your wheels on the rails and put these through the spokes to tie your wheels down, and these through your crossbars. And then what we would advise is that you put some sort of bike lock around the bikes through the frame, just to stop the bikes being stolen if you leave the vehicle unattended with the bikes on the back. You've got your grey water tap here, so this is very similar to your fresh, but this is dirty water, so this is anything that you've drained down a plug hole. So normally on the way out of your site, you'd pull over the service point for the motorhome and just crack this open, and that'll drain off. And you want to ensure that this is fully drained, especially in the winter, to stop the water from freezing in the tanks. But get into a routine of emptying it when you leave site, and then just leave it open ever so slightly, so when you drive home with the road and the camber of the road, it'll jiggle any loose water out to stop it from freezing. Here you have an external TV point, so if you were on a super site that give you access to an aerial, you can get a length of coax and connect to the aerial. So if you're in the lakes and you are in a hard to reach signalled area, the aerial might be better than the one on your motorhome roof. Got your awning, Fiamma F45 awning, fridge vents, diesel filler on the passenger door which opens with the main ignition key, tyre pressures on the slam panel, so 5 bar on the front which is 72.3 psi and 5.5 on the back which is 79.5. Toolkit underneath the passenger seat which includes a jack and a brace and tow eye, and then underneath this panel on the floor is where the engine battery lives. So if you ever needed to replenish the engine battery, charge it, lift this cover and you'll get access to the top of the battery. Bonnet releases on the side of the dashboard. And you've got your fluids to your left hand side underneath the driver's side of the vehicle, so screen wash, power steering fluid, brake fluid, coolant, oil dipstick. And then for jump starting, because the battery is underneath the cab floor, you do have a jump point underneath the bonnet, so you've got a positive underneath this cover, and then by the headlight you can just earth off here and that will give and receive a jump start from the battery. Paint code which is 249, and then VIN for the motorhome side, so the conversion from Elddis, not the chassis. MTPLM which is your mass and payload of 3.5 ton, and then your mass and running order which is when you empty of 2,965. So working that out will give you a payload of how much gear you can put on board your motorhome. When you enter the vehicle, down beside the habitation door you've got your switch for your step which brings it in and out, and you've got this little switch here which is a 12 volt kill switch. So if that's turned off, nothing will work within the vehicle until you turn it back on, and this will just stop a power drain from your leisure battery. So make sure that's turned on, and then what you can do, you can come up here and turn your main control panel on. So you've got this switch here which says aux, which is your leisure battery or your vehicle battery, but you always want to run the motorhome off the aux battery, which is the leisure battery, because that's what it's designed for. So pop that to aux. Then what you can do is you can view the level of voltage in your leisure battery. You can do the same with vehicle. If you pop that down, but view the level, take the hook about to get a true reading, and then what you can do, this little switch in the middle is your water switch. So if you press on the bottom, it'll tell you how full your freshwater tank is, so it's half full there. And then you've got your pump on, so should you have enough water in the tank, which you do, you can turn your pump on and this will pressurize the water to your taps, toilet and shower. But always make sure that your boiler's closed before you turn your pump on, which I'll talk about more as we go through the video. In the back of the vehicle, behind the wardrobe in the back lounge, is where you'll find the controls for your heating and hot water. So you've got two switches here. So this switch is the 240 volt element for the heating. So you've got to turn that on to then use this control, which I'll go on to in a second. And then this one is the 240 volt element for the water heater. So you can heat your water on gas or electric, but you can turn it on. So if you are on a site, you wouldn't waste your gas, you just pop your electric on, and then that'll heat your water up to hot. Or if you are in desperate need, you can use both together. So you would just turn it on down the gas flame. You've got 30 to 60 degrees there, or 70 degrees even, so you can choose how hot you want your water. But make sure that you take your cover off, because if you don't take your cover off when using your gas, you'll get a red light on there which indicates that it has failed. And that's all it's failing for, is because it can't circulate the exhaust fumes. So you just knock it off, go out, take the cover off, blow into the vent, and then turn it back on when you get back inside the motorhome. Or if you're wild camping, you wouldn't have any 240 volt, so you would just use gas. Coming back to the heating, so ultra heat. So you've got off, 2000 at the top, and then 1 to 9, so you can, 9's equivalent to 30 degrees, so you can choose how hot you want your vehicle. So 2000 kilowatts, 500 watts, which is half a kilowatt, and then you've got 1 kilowatt at the bottom. So it all depends on the amperage the site gives you. So normally on a main site, company, caravan and club, you can use 2000, which is the top one. And then on smaller CL sites abroad, you may have to use 1 kilowatt or 500 watts, depending on what else you are running. So if you're running a mains kettle, obviously that'll take a lot, or a microwave, you may have to slightly turn it down so it doesn't trip the vehicle out. But then you would use your thermostat. So 9's 30 degrees, so 5 is about 15 degrees, so you can determine how hot you want the inside of your motorhome to be. And then when you get a free flow of water like so, you know that your system is primed, because it's released all the air. But it's very important to drain your boiler off, especially in the winter, which I'll show you how to do so. So to create the double bed out the double dinette, slide this lamps out, lift these panels up. So if you lift them up, you extend the width of the bed, and there's two, one on that side, one on the front. Slide this out and get the so far, and then you just want to lift and slide it and put it between the two grub screws here. Take the back little cushion out and push two infill cushions in, and then you put your other two infill cushions on the side, wedge it in, like so. And there you have a double bed made out the front, as the 180 is a 6-berth. And then to put the boards down to make the bed, there's two little levers. So pull it up slightly, press it in and drop it down, and click it back into place, and that'll store away neatly. To lock the habitation door, you just turn to the right, turn to the left to open the door, and then you've got a separate fly screen. So what you do is just separate the door from the screen, and then slide this along. It'll latch into the lock. So in the summer you can have the door open, but you've got a fly net to stop the midges from coming into the vehicle. In your washroom, you've got your tap, which is also your shower. So you just pull that out and pop that up there, and that would work as your shower hose. And then you turn the tap on. But when winterizing, it's very important that you unscrew the shower head from the hose, pull the hose all the way out, and just lie that resting down into the shower tray with the mixer tap open, so any water in here doesn't coil up and potentially freeze. Shower curtain, toiletry holder, cabinet underneath your sink, vanity unit. All your blinds have got a fly screen and a blackout blind on. And then to operate your toilet, so pressing the blue button will pull in the flush from your header tank, which is where you'd put your pink liquid. Always flush first to lubricate the seal between the toilet and the cassette. And then this blade, what that does is it opens the blade, which is the hatch between the toilet and the cassette. So slide that to the right. Use the toilet with the hatch open so everything goes into the cassette. Flush after use, and then slide this back to the left, which will isolate the blade, close the cassette, and then should the cassette indicate it's full, which would be on here by a light, you can then go outside the vehicle and pull it free of the vehicle. Should it be open, it will not come out, and then you'll have to nip back in and you'll know what you've done. You just need to close the blade. So get into a habit of flushing before, opening, using the toilet, flushing, closing, and then you should have no problems. In the back lounge on the left hand side, you've got your fuse board. So should you trip out on mains electric, try here before you try your main site. And then you've got all your 12 volt fuses, which are all listed what they do. So do carry some spares, just in case one fuse decides to blow, you can replenish the fuse. And you've got storage in the back there and down the side. And then to create this bed, what you do is, again, slide this out, it'll come all the way, and then all you need to do is lift, slide further out, and again wedge that in. Lift this section out. This is now not used, and then you use your backrests. Both sides should create the double bed, and you'd sleep across the width of the back of the vehicle. In the wardrobe is where you'll find your TV aerial. So you've got your aerial here and your booster. So should you be using the external TV aerial and you've connected via a coax lead from outside, if you're on a super site, you'd need to connect this input into here. So you need to remove this one here, which is for this aerial, pop that one in, and then you can keep your tellies plugged into the various points in the vehicle, and this will then feed that point, so you should get a signal on your telly. But if you are using this aerial, which you probably will be, if you're struggling for a signal, loosen the nut, push it up, and then use the toggle to direct the aerial, and it'll just tilt the aerial until it finds a signal. But look where the other motorhomes and caravans are pointing on your site. That's the best advice I can give you. But then before travel, pull it in, tighten the nut, and that'll make the aerial ready for travel, so that the wind doesn't get underneath the aerial and potentially rip it off the top of the vehicle. Above the carb, you've got your luton bed, so another double bed. So the ladder clips on, so pull these out, you'll be able to lift the ladder off the rail, pop it on. So pull them back, pop it on, push them in to secure the ladder when you're using it. And then you've got a safety net. If you're putting children up there, it'll clip in to the top here. Curtains, and then a light with the individual switch on, similar to the ceiling lights. These are all individually switched, so there's little switches on them. And then should you want extra headroom, what you can do is to get in and out the cab, store your ladder up here. If you're going to use this for storage, make sure that you're storing lighter items like clothing, bedding up here when you're travelling, nothing too heavy. Push that up. It's on gas struts, it'll give you larger headroom to get in if you're a taller person. And then when you're ready to use the bed, you can just pull it back down.